Today, I'm cooking for you a paprika-dusted swordfish over a delicious Portuguese tomato rice, and I'm gonna finish it with a chive butter. The reason why I'm doing this dish is I took a great trip over the summer with my family to Portugal, and I want to showcase a little bit of that for you here today. Now, just picture being on the coast of Portugal and this beautiful little restaurant. This great dish comes out with langostinos over this tomato rice. The food was out of this world. My kids even felt so comfortable trying new things. They were loving the food that much. Today, I'm taking the shrimp out. I'm gonna do it with swordfish. I think it's a really nice way to complete the dish and puts my own little spin on it. So we're gonna get cooking. To start the rice, first thing we always wanna do is we wanna get a little onion going with some olive oil. So I'm gonna chop an onion, finely diced, and then we'll start getting the other components into the pot. Now, when you're chopping an onion, what I always do is I only go 3/4 of the way through the onion, and then same thing from the top, 3/4 of the way through. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set it up to be the size of the dice that I want. And this is gonna hold that onion together so that when you're dicing it, the onion doesn't fall apart, and most importantly, you don't cut yourself. And boom, you've got a finely diced onion. A lot of times people say don't cook with olive oil. Today, we're not searing anything at high heat, but what I did choose to do was bring my friend's olive oil from East Long Meadow, Tray Olive, wonderful olive oil. We're gonna get some olive oil right in there, and you always wanna start with your pot or pan being hot. Right after that's done and you start to see that oil jump around the pot a little bit, that's when we're gonna add our next ingredients. So I'm starting to see that now here in the pot. I'm feeling good about it. We're gonna get our onions right in here. And that's what you wanna hear. You wanna hear that little bit of sizzle going on and let that onion just release some of its natural sweetness. In addition to the onion, I'm gonna add a little bit of shallot in, and we'll just get a fine cut on this shallot right here as well. We're gonna get that shallot right in with the onion. Now, I don't know about you guys, I love the smell of garlic, I love the taste of garlic. For me, garlic could be a perfume and I would love it. I'm using a pre-peeled garlic that I bought from the grocery store, which is totally fine. You're gonna see this little brown nub on the end of it where it was the butt going into the ground. You're just gonna wanna cut that off, just for texture reasons, really not flavor, but just get rid of that. All right, now when I'm chopping my garlic too, the thinner, the better. I like my garlic to almost be able to melt away. So again, this is more garlic than most people like to eat in one sitting, but for me, I like it. Now we've got all of the alliums in here. So that's the onions and the garlic. And you want to keep the heat on these. The second you start to see a little bit of brown, that's when all that flavor is going to release. We're going to take our next step where we're going to add some of our cherry tomatoes. We're going to then add in some of our stewed tomatoes, and then we add the rice in at the end. Now, I make this dish a little bit more like a risotto style rice, okay, which would be a borio rice, but I'm using actually the long grain Carolina rice. They didn't teach me how to make it, I just ate it in a restaurant, so I'm putting my own little flair into it. Next, we're gonna add in some of these tomatoes, and we're gonna let that start doing its work. After those tomatoes cook down a little bit, they're gonna release some of their natural sweet juices. That's gonna cook into the onions and the garlic. Next, I'm gonna add in just a little bit of the aromatics. So in this case, we're gonna add in some parsley and some cilantro right into the garlic and the onion. And I don't want to go too fine on this because I don't want this to just be like little specks. I actually want this to cook down and wilt into the rice. You get these little pops of flavor when you're eating it. In Portugal, I don't think they use stewed tomatoes, but my wife absolutely loves stewed tomatoes, and so I had to add them into the dish. So now we're gonna add in those stewed tomatoes I was talking about, and then we're gonna follow with our rice. Instantly, that rice is gonna start sucking up that juice. Now we've got the rice in, I'm gonna add a little bit of stock, and then we're gonna move on to the final component of the dish before we cook the fish, because we got a little bit of time to go on the rice. We'll start making the butter that's gonna go on top. So I've added some gloves because this next part of the job gets a little messy. We're doing a compound butter. All you need is a stick of butter. I've softened this up so it's just really pliable. What we're gonna do is add a couple of ingredients to that. You could do this a million different ways. Today we're gonna do a little bit of lemon zest and a little bit of chive, and that's gonna be what finishes our dish here, because I could take this out and use it for this recipe, but then the next time I sear up a piece of fish, I can use it again. I could put this on top of a steak if I wanted to. a piece of chicken. So it's really, really versatile. So I've got my butter right on the parchment paper here, and I just want to kind of make this form almost into a stick of butter. So I'm just going to use my hands just to firmly turn that into like a little cylinder. I'm going to roll it up, and then all you do is twist the ends, and we're going to throw this right into the freezer. And then what we do is we cut little discs as we need them, put it right on top of the fish. It'll start to melt down, and you've got a little sauce just out of a stick of butter. It's perfect. Oh man, I'm excited to open this lid because I can already tell this is smelling really good. So when I open this, we'll add a couple of ingredients and take a look because this is really nice. Oh man, that smells so good. It's really coming together. In fact, right now is a great time. I'm gonna add in some of my secret ingredient, that sazon I was talking about. Next, some of the adobo. We're cooking this more in a risotto style with regular rice, which is not really the norm, so we gotta add stock along the way just to keep it going because we're cooking this at high heat. It's not the typical, but it's really, really good this way. All right, we're gonna let this do its work. We'll check back in a couple minutes. So now we're to the fun part. We're gonna cook the swordfish. Most important thing when you're searing a piece of fish or a piece of beef, you wanna make sure that your oil is nice and hot and your pan is scorching. You wanna hear that sizzle the second you put it down. So we're gonna season the fish, a little bit of salt and pepper on both sides, and then a little bit of paprika on both sides. And the paprika gives that smokiness, but it also actually adds a little bit to the color profile. In that hot pan, which I already have going, we're gonna put some olive oil. This is what you're gonna wanna hear. We're gonna get some good color on both sides of this, and when we flip it, we're gonna throw it right into the oven and just finish it off that way. All right, so we're gonna give this a little flip, and you're gonna see this beautiful color that we have going on here. That's what you're looking for. So we're gonna give this 1 second, and then we'll pop it in the oven, and we'll go to plating. All right, say goodbye for a couple minutes.
A few moments later.
We are good. This swordfish looks phenomenal. So we're gonna put this right down on the cutting board to rest. We're gonna bring the rice right over as well. Look at that sizzle, look at that crust. I mean, this is how you wanna cook swordfish. You don't want sword to be cooked all the way through. You wanna be at a nice medium. And so I'm gonna just give this rice a final stir, and we're gonna begin to plate. Oh, that looks so good. And all you can smell in here is the tomato, the onion, the garlic, and all because I took one little trip to Portugal. So fun, a great place to visit. Now this is just a little green herb emulsion for a little extra color around the plate. So easy to do, a little parsley in a blender with some olive oil. All right, let's not forget our butter. This is that beautiful compound butter that we just made. And literally within minutes, this firmed right up. And that's gonna go right on top of the fish. And if you wanna get a little extra fancy, we can throw a little torched lemon and really impress your friends at home with this beautiful swordfish over Portuguese tomato rice. Just like any good Portuguese meal, we always start with a cheese board with a little prosciutto, some olives and soft cheese. But I gotta tell you, this is the showstopper. I can't wait to have a bite. That is so delicious. Enjoy.